Hello and welcome to the first of our 2023 monthly webinar series, The Do's and Don'ts of Wealth Building. My name is Jeff King. I've been in the financial services industry for over 18 years. I'm a wealth advisor and financial planner for 12 Points Wealth Management. Financial planning is an integral part of my practice and entirely consistent with 12 Points value-focused, client-centric orientation to wealth management. Please welcome our featured presenter, Karen Ireland. Karen is a senior business development strategist at MFS in Boston, and Karen has 20 years of experience primarily focused on retirement planning. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's presentation. Here's the good news. When it comes to building wealth, in theory, it's pretty simple. It's just 3 steps. Spend less than you earn, invest that difference wisely, and develop simple daily habits that will help you stay the course. And if you do all this, you will have lifetime wealth. Now, I know you want something new, more exciting, and different. And this is kind of like what our grandmothers would have said. Building wealth isn't rocket science. It's a lifelong journey of daily habits that build up over time. In the first phase, this is when you're young. You just start working, you may be paying off college debt, you may not have a lot to save or invest at this point in time. But small things now can make a huge difference. The second phase, you're getting closer to retirement, and this may be the sandwich years where you're balancing your career, your kids, your parents, and all kinds of other goals. Phase 3, that's when we're in retirement and we're navigating Social Security and Medicare. And the final phase, that's when we're creating a legacy for our family, our charities, our loved ones. We're primarily going to focus on phase 1 and phase 2 today and briefly cover 3 and 4. Throughout all the phases, you're going to hear the same consistent message, which is the way we build wealth is to control your spending. The way to preserve wealth is to control your spending. The good news, though, is you are never alone. No matter what stage in life you are in, work with your financial advisors, such as Jeff and Greg at 12 Points, to help you navigate everything that may come along throughout this journey. So let's talk about the first phase. You're in your 20s and 30s. At this point, you have a lot going on. How do you get started? There's no better time than now. At this point of the journey, it's important to be aware and take control of your spending. This means creating a budget, establishing good savings habits, and starting to save in your 401k, 403b, and other retirement accounts. Just as important is the don'ts. Don't spend your raises, don't bail out of the market, and don't let life events derail your savings. So let's take a deeper look. The foundation of building wealth is to know where your money goes. Now, there are some alarming statistics about budgeting. Only a third of Americans operate off a budget. 63% of Americans don't have enough savings for a $500 emergency. And people would rather spend a day in jail than talk about finances for an hour. Now, I don't know how we became a society where we would rather spend time in a cold concrete cell than talking about finances. Most people wing their finances. Don't do that. Establish a budget. So, 3 ideas to get you motivated. Idea 1, sit down on a rainy day and make a list of what your income looks like and what are your expenses, and then what are your future financial goals. Another idea, I prefer the word audit versus budget. Once a year, sit down, take a look at your credit card and see what you spent your money on. Maybe there's some things you can cut out of it. Maybe there's some subscriptions that have built up and you're no longer using. Idea number 3, if you're married or with a significant other, discuss money with them. Start with your spouse's salary. Do you know what it is? 1,000 couples were surveyed, and over 50% of people got their spouse's salary wrong. Some of them were off by $50,000. Another thing to be aware of is that 73% of people said that they have a different money management style than their significant others. Now, you don't have to agree on all things money related, but it's critical to be open about your finances and find some common grounds. Also, if you're young, it's important to develop good credit habits and a good credit score from the beginning. Employers will use credit scores to screen out candidates. Landlords want to know how likely you are to pay your rent. And finally, your credit score can affect your relationships. One study found that over a third of adults would reconsider a romantic relationship because of another person's debt. So, three things that factor into your credit score. Number one, the amount you owe. So, best practice is that you should keep the percentage of the credit that you use. This is also known as your credit utilization ratio. Keep that below 30% in order to maintain good or excellent credit. If you're close to maxing out your credit cards, it can often lower your credit score. Next, your payment history is a big factor. Are you paying your bills on time? If you're building credit for the first time, you want to do your best to ensure that the first 7 years of credit aren't marred by any late payments. And third, the length of your credit history. In general, the longer the better. So don't close out a credit card account, especially if it's a card that you've had for a long time. Just stop using that. Also, while paying off a student loan may seem like a good idea, you also might be missing an opportunity to show that you can handle a 10-year loan. Now, most experts suggest that you dedicate around 20% of your income to saving for retirement, building an emergency fund, and investing. And this can be tough in your early earning years. But saving even small amounts sooner rather than later and doing it regularly, it can have a huge impact later on in life. So in this hypothetical example, we have someone who starts saving at 22. At that time, they were earning 40,000. They started off by saving 3%, and every year they increased their contributions by 1% until they were saving 10% of their salaries. Over their lifetime, they contributed $250,000. The employer contributions were about $120,000, but the investment returns were nearly $1 million. This is why saving the most you can when you are young is so important. When you're 25 and trying to figure out how will I reach $1 million, it can seem daunting, but the majority of your investment returns or the majority of your retirement income will come from your investment returns. Albert Einstein once said Albert Einstein once said that compound interest, it's the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays for it. So establish those good savings habits as soon as you can. And remember, time is on your side when it comes to saving for your future. And saving what you can, when you can, is so important because life is going to throw you curveballs. Whether it's happy events like getting married and having kids, or not so happy events like maybe getting in an accident and you or a loved one becomes disabled. And while you can't predict what will happen, you can be prepared. So take a look at Sydney. Sydney started saving at 22. She also started at 3%, increased her contributions by 1% until she reached 10%. She left the workforce at 32. And even though she didn't add to her savings, when she officially retired, she had almost $500,000 in savings. This is why we encourage everyone to establish good savings habits as soon as you can. That way, if life throws you those curveballs, you already have something you are already building upon. And the more you can save when you are young, the better prepared you are no matter what happens in life. Another thing to be aware of is it's also important to avoid lifestyle creep. So, what is lifestyle creep? It's when you get a raise or you pay off your student loans or the kids leave the house, now you can afford those things you couldn't afford before. And this pushes you into more expensive lifestyle And now you need more money in retirement to fund that lifestyle that you've grown accustomed to. It's so much easier to go up in your standard of living than to scale it back. So it turns out that this lifestyle creep, it's the biggest risk to having enough money in retirement. And that's because it happens so gradually. It starts with getting someone to help with the housekeeping or gardening or eating out more often or going on more expensive vacations. So how do you prevent lifestyle creep? Instead of spending all that extra money, save some of it. Increase your 401k contributions. Not only will this help limit your rate of lifestyle creep, but it may also increase your retirement savings as well, and maybe also help you retire even sooner than you expected. Finally, don't let market volatility get in the way. So when the markets get volatile, the bigger risk isn't the market volatility, it's what you do in reaction to it. What research has found is that investors will go to great lengths to avoid losing money because the pain of loss is 3 times greater than the pleasure of gain. So this bias against losing money, it can stand in the way of investment success because our emotions may cause us to think or act irrationally. And this is why a lot of investors underperform. During a market decline, we may be tempted to do what Lucy or Marcella did. Lucy sold during the market and then jumped back in after the market rallied. This essentially locked in the losses, and Lucy missed out on some of the market's best performing days. Marcello, he decided he was completely spooked and never went back into the markets. So don't react to the market. Remain invested, resist the urge to trade, and even more importantly, when you start to get stressed or spooked by the market, reach out to a financial professional such as 12 Points before you take any knee-jerk reactions. So the next step on the journey is getting ready to retire. And this is where you may be juggling your career, your children going off to college, your retirement, your parents. This is when everything comes together in one big financial melting pot. At this point in life, it's not just about what you save, it's also about what you keep. So here are some do's and don'ts to consider. First, we're going to assess our retirement readiness. We'll also relook at our beneficiaries, and we want to also revisit our asset allocation. Just as important is the don't. Don't be tempted to put off your savings. Don't forget about taxes, and don't underestimate the cost of healthcare. So let's focus on the do's. Let me ask you this question. Which would you rather do? Wait in line at the DMV or plan for retirement? If you are like most people, you probably prefer waiting in line at the DMV. At least when you wait in line at the DMV, you know what the outcome should be. As you get closer to retirement, I cannot encourage you enough to work with a financial advisor such as one at 12 Points. You only retire once in your life, but your financial advisor has worked with hundreds of people who have already retired. Draw on their experience. They'll bring up things such as, do you have enough savings? What is your projected income from your portfolios? What are your expenses? And it's not just the day-to-day expenses, but what about splurges like vacations or hobbies, or those unexpected costs like a car repair, house repairs, long-term care? They can also discuss actions you can take if you are short on your retirement goals. The good news is that you may not have to do anything drastic. Instead, there could be a lot of small changes that could lead to more effective outcomes than making just one big drastic change. So things like saving more, working longer, avoiding lifestyle creep, those small changes put together can often have a more or far greater effect than just focusing on asset allocation or increasing your contributions by 20%. If you can, Working longer may be one of the best tools out there to improve your retirement success. Just this morning, I read a stat that said retiring at 62 more than doubles the chances of not being able to meet your retirement income needs. An older stat I found said that working one more year can improve your retirement success. So improve the probability of your money lasting your lifetime. So working one more year can improve your retirement success by 18%. Working 2 more years by 37%, and working 3 more years by 55%. And why is that? It's because if you're working longer, you may not be withdrawing from your 401ks and your other portfolios. Plus, your Social Security benefits may be growing. And hopefully, your 401ks and your IRA account balances are also growing as well. So, hopefully, what that means is when you retire, you hopefully will be withdrawing less money or a smaller percent from your portfolio. And as we all recognize, the less we can withdraw from our portfolio, the better chance our money will last throughout our retirement. Again, everyone's situation is different. Everyone's preferences is different. And this is why we encourage you, don't listen to your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues. Reach out to a good financial professional. Reach out to someone at 12 Points and discuss your options and let them help you weigh the pros and cons of your decisions. Next, a big to-do, review your beneficiaries to make sure they are up to date. Here's a story from my life. I have an uncle. He got divorced at 54. And when he got divorced, he did what he should do. He took his ex-wife um, off of the beneficiary forms. He took his ex-wife off the trust and the will. 4 years later, he had a heart attack and passed away unexpectedly. And I'm helping my two cousins sort through his financial life. Most of his money at that time was sitting in an IRA account at a company that did not have a financial advisor. So we call up the company and find out how much my cousins would get. And they say, kids? We say, yes, kids. And they said, actually, there's only one beneficiary listed on the forms. Turns out it had been 20 years since my uncle had last updated his beneficiary forms. And at that time, he only had one child, and now he was leaving his account to just that one child. One of the most common mistakes is that there are some forms that supersede the trusts and the wills. So things like your IRA beneficiary forms, your life insurance forms. So this is why we encourage everyone to work with a financial advisor and ask them to do a beneficiary review. As you can see, it gets complicated. It's tough to remember what forms supersede the trust and the wills. Ask your financial advisor if they can do a beneficiary review so that your money, should you pass away, goes to the people that you intended to go to. Next, revisit your asset allocation and discuss how much risk you should assume as you near retirement with a financial advisor. The general rule of thumb is that you want to invest more aggressively when you are young and then gradually invest more conservatively as you approach and move into retirement. Because if there is a major downturn, you want to take some of that risk off the table. And as you can see from these two hypothetical portfolios, both of them had the same average annual return. However, one of the portfolios was more volatile than the other. The less volatile portfolio lasted a few more years in retirement. This is why it's so important to work with a financial advisor and not do it by yourself, because you want to ensure you aren't being subject to any bad luck or unintended risk. Also, before you enter retirement, discuss with a financial advisor how much you can withdraw from your portfolio. In this scenario, both Anthony and Jamie started with a 6.5% withdrawal rate, and both ran out of money in 20 years. At 62, your life expectancy is 23 years. At 65, it's 20. And if you're married, one of you is expected to live until 90. That 6.5% withdrawal rate is a little too high. And this is yet another reason why we encourage people, don't enter retirement alone. Work with a financial advisor to find that right balance between stocks and bonds, as well as how much you can withdraw from your portfolio. Another risk, taxes. For the average retiree, their biggest surprise in retirement is their income tax. And there's all kinds of taxes, and different investments are taxed differently, and different investments could affect how much of your Social Security benefits could be taxed or potentially what your Medicare premiums would be. I like to take risk off the table, and one of these is to sit down with a financial advisor and figure out if you have a tax diversified portfolio. If you are like my parents, you may have a tax concentrated portfolio like the one on the left. It's your IRAs, your 401ks, your pensions, CDs, and any withdrawal from this is taxed as ordinary income, which means it's taxed at your federal income tax rates. There's all kinds of things you can do to create a tax diversified portfolio. Everyone's situation is different. Talk with a financial professional, such as one at 12 Points, to discuss what this could mean for you. I really like the Roth option. So a Roth withdrawal is taxed at zero. You don't pay taxes on a Roth withdrawal as long as it's qualified. So it's been at least 5 years and you're age 59 and a half. Roths also don't require you to take money out when you turn 73. And also, a Roth withdrawal, it's not going to affect the chance that your Social Security benefits could become taxable or that your Medicare premiums could go up. So if you have a Roth and a pre-tax IRA or 401k, it changes the conversation from which one do I take from first to how do I withdraw from both to really minimize my taxes throughout retirement. It's also great for big purchases. So when people retire, often the first thing they purchase is a brand new car. So let's say a used car, I think, is around $30,000 in 2022. So let's say you purchase a $30,000 car, and let's say you purchase it using a pre-tax 401k. If that's the case, and you are in that 20% tax bracket, that $30,000 car is now $36,000 after you pay those federal income taxes. If, however, you have a Roth, that $30,000 car is still $30,000 because you don't pay taxes on withdrawals from a Roth. So what that means is if you have that Roth inside your 401k, maybe shift some of the pre-tax contributions over to the Roth so that you have some flexibility of controlling taxes throughout retirement. This is a great conversation to have with your CPA or with a financial professional. Again, everyone's situation is different. My role is to provide as much information as possible so that you can discuss this with your financial professional. And finally, don't be tempted to put off savings in favor of your kids. We all get it. You want to help the people who are important to you. However, like the airplane safety video tells us, always put on your safety mask before helping others. It's the same thing for retirement. It does no good helping someone else in the short term if it's going to put your long-term goals at risk. You can borrow for anything in life, college, a car, a house, but you can't borrow for retirement. So in the spring of 2022, 40% of parents said that they had an adult child living with them, and 35% of parents said they had compromised their long-term savings goals to help their kids financially. People don't regret helping their adult kids. They do regret not setting boundaries with their adult kids. So set limits. Discuss with them how much of the living expenses you're willing to cover. And if you are thinking of helping them out with a mortgage or a big or a wedding or big financial purchase, work with your financial advisor. Maybe they'll say it's great. Maybe they'll say you'll have to work a year or two longer. Know ahead of time, and your financial professional, they can always take the hit for you saying no to your kids. And helping your adult kids learn to become financially independent can benefit you if They need to care for you someday, just like you may be caring for your own parents. W- Um, no one likes to talk about long-term care, yet these expenses are key risks to your retirement assets. 70% of people will need some form of long-term care during their lifetime. And there's basically three options for paying for long-term care. Option one, through your own savings, also long-term care, or your spouse or your family. It's expensive, but having a plan for your care might make a difference in your quality of life. So discuss this with your family, discuss this with your parents, and figure out how you can help each other out both physically and financially. And briefly, in your retirement years, let's talk about how to make the most of your retirement assets, Medicare, and Social Security. Before you enter into retirement, again, talk with a financial advisor about how much you can withdraw from your portfolio and also your asset allocation as well. Let's look at that 4%. Let's say you're withdrawing 4% from your portfolio and you're invested 100% in bonds. You sound like it feels like you're being pretty conservative, but look at that. There's only a 44% chance that your money will last throughout your lifetime. Let's say you add in 25% equity, so go over one column. Look at that. Your chance of retirement success more than doubled. This is why we encourage everyone keep at least some of your money in equities and in stocks because that's the best way of keeping up with inflation. More importantly, work with a financial advisor to figure out how much you can withdraw from your portfolio and the asset allocation that is best for you. Also, before you go into retirement, discuss with a professional about Medicare. I am not a Medicare expert by any means, but I've been in the industry enough to know to have an understanding of important things to talk about. One of the best ideas someone shared with me is before you start Medicare, so 2 or 3 years beforehand, ask your doctor who their Medicare insurance providers are. If you like your doctor and you want to stick with them, understand who they use for insurance for Medicare. That way you know which companies to stick with. Another good practice I've heard is when you're 65, if you're still working, contact your company's health insurance provider to understand your Medicare options. Maybe, depending on how many employees there are, maybe you will have to go on Medicare. Maybe you can stick with the employer's plan, or maybe the employer will want to be a secondary insurer and Medicare is their first insurer. The important thing is once you are 64 and 9 months, start exploring the option. Better yet, start exploring this years before so that you can make informed decisions and have informed conversations before you elect Medicare. Also, I encourage all of you explore Medigap or Medicare Advantage. It's complicated, but some questions you may want to understand is what's the monthly premium, and then what's the annual out of pocket maximum that you would have to pay. Explore both options before you decide when to take or what Medicare option you want to have. When it comes to Social Security, a lot of people just focus on what would I receive now? What would I receive if I take it at 67 or 70? It's a lot more complicated than that. Before you take Social Security, sit down with a financial advisor and discuss how long will you be working? Because if you're under 66 or 67, there's limits in how much you can earn if you also want to receive Social Security at the same time. Also discuss with your financial professional how much you can withdraw from your portfolio. We encourage everyone that we don't just want you to focus on maximizing your Social Security benefit, but we also want you to focus on maximizing your portfolio as well. And your Social Security benefits may impact how much you can withdraw from your portfolio. Talk with a financial advisor. As far as life expectancy, in my opinion, life expectancy is only a concern if you're single. If you're single and you think you'll live forever, probably take Social Security at 70. If you don't think you'll live forever, take a point in time that is right for you, based on your withdrawal rates and what you think your life expectancy will be. If you're married, however, I don't like to use your individual life expectancy. And that's because there's a 50% chance one of you is going to live past the age of 90. So for that reason, if you're married and both of you have worked and paid into Social Security, I encourage the spouse with a lower benefit, maybe take whenever you retire or turn full retirement age. But I want to encourage the spouse with a higher benefit to maximize that benefit as much as you possibly can. Because if you are the spouse with the higher benefit, if you die first, your spouse will keep the high of their own benefit or what you were receiving at death. So it gets complicated. This is such a short overview on Social Security. What I want to encourage all of you to do is when it comes to claiming Social Security, do not listen to your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues, your cousins, because what worked for them may not be what works for you. You have your own unique needs, values, and goals. So before you claim Social Security, sit down with a professional, such as one at 12 Points, and discuss with them not only when to claim Social Security and what that benefit would be, but also how that decision could impact your taxes, your asset allocation, your withdrawal rates, and everything else we've discussed throughout this presentation. And then finally, what happens about leaving a legacy to your family? So it's not just about the money, it's also about the values you are leaving behind. If you can, sit down, take a moment, and write down all your wishes and what you want your children and grandchildren to accomplish with their inheritance. This increases the odds of creating that long-lasting legacy. Next, make sure you have 3 essential legal documents in place. Astonishingly enough, only two-thirds of adults have no living will or other advance directive. So the first document you want to have is that will. If you don't have a will, then it's up to the state to decide where your assets go after you're gone. So you want to have a will so that you can control who receives the assets. The next is the power of attorney. The will doesn't do anything for you while you're alive. So if you become incapacitated or sick, you want to have the durable power of attorney. This works alongside your will and your trust, and that allows you to name someone who can step in and manage your day-to-day financial affairs if you become incapacitated. And then the last legal document you want to have is an advanced healthcare directive. So this way, if you're sick and you can't communicate for yourself, someone can step in and make healthcare decisions for you and communicate your wishes with your doctors on your behalf. And then also, one more financial thing we encourage everyone to do is make it easier for your kids. One of the greatest gifts we can leave our loved ones is an easily settled estate. So help your children find the documents they need to successfully settle your estate during that difficult time. Take an afternoon and simply mark the locations of some of the important estate documents and let your kids know about this ahead of time. The last time I was home, so I live in New Hampshire, my parents live in Minnesota. The last time I was home, my mom took time to show me all the documents there were so that I could find that during difficult times. It's a tremendous gift she gave to me and one I will always remember. So we have discussed a lot of things today. So do take the time to develop those good savings habits. Don't get derailed by life's curveballs, and always work with a financial advisor because they can help you manage all of the risks that could impact your wealth. They can help you create a financial strategy to help you achieve your goals. They can help you choose investments that can align with your goals. And they can help you stay the course whenever the markets get volatile or your life changes. Your call to action is to pick one habit, just one habit, and start it today. Practice it until it becomes permanent. And then when you're ready, choose another habit. Most importantly, remember, you don't have to do this alone. Work with a financial advisor who can help you navigate the financial opportunities and challenges in front of you. give a call to 12 Points and let them help you be a partner through all of life stages. So with that, I will turn it back to 12 Points for some final words.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was very comprehensive, to say the least. As Karen pointed out, she covered an awful lot of ground, gave you some excellent information. Couple of questions did come up, Karen, if I could just ask you. So you run into somebody that's just starting out. They just got out of college, they got their first good job, and they don't know what to do about their retirement planning. What's the first thing you would suggest that they do, if you give them just one piece of advice?
There's just one thing you can do. Ask your employer if they have a 401k or 403b plan and
Right.
start saving in it at a minimum 3%. The next minimum I would suggest is get whatever you can to get that employer match, and then just gradually start adding to it, increasing that contribution rate as time goes on.
So immediately participate, start as early as possible, and stay
Exactly.
consistent.
Exactly.
Okay. In terms of liabilities or debts, so there's lots of talk about how to consolidate debt. Some say you should take your highest interest credit cards, for instance, and pay them off, or your highest balance. Any insight there?
Oh, goodness. So this becomes what you should do on paper and then what you should do practically.
Mhm.
I So for some people, you may stay more in course by paying off the highest balance.
Mhm.
Some people may stay more in course by paying off the highest interest rates.
Right.
And some people may stay on course by tackling the easier one first and then the bigger one. For
Right.
me, the most important thing is that you choose a path and you stay committed to it and you make it a priority to pay off that debt.
Right. Because it has a big impact. Having debt gets in the way of how much your actual returns are of your investments.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again, Karen. Excellent job. And we appreciate everyone spending the time and listening. You'll have our contact information, and feel free to contact any one of us. Thank you.